Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. And Smackdown tonight, I thought it was a good show, in my opinion. And on tonight's show, we saw Shinsuke Nakamura once again. He ended up taking on Corbin. We had Dominik Mysterio. He ended up taking on Roode. And in the main event, the Intercontinental Championship was on the line. It was a fatal four-way. Apollo Crews ended up defending the title against Big E, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. But overall, SmackDown was a good show tonight, in my opinion. And before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video, I uploaded the Dynamite review of Dynamite from this week. So definitely go check out my review of that if you guys haven't seen it. Very good Dynamite it was this week, and I go over Dynamite moving to TBS next year, and a new AEW show that's going to be debuting on TNT in August, AEW Rampage. So I go over all that in my review. So definitely check out the Dynamite review if you guys haven't seen it. And also got some news that was released earlier today. WWE ended up releasing news, and many other wrestling news sites end up picking this up. And getting this off of WrestlingInc.com. And WWE ended up announcing that they are returning to touring. Yes, there's going to be live fans back in attendance starting in July. It will begin on July 16th on Friday. It will begin with SmackDown. So WWE announced this morning that a 25-city tour will begin on Friday, July 16th for SmackDown. It's going to be at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. And then Money in the Bank will take place that Sunday. It will take place on July 18th at the Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. And then next night, Monday Night Raw will take place at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. So those are the three shows that WWE has announced as part of this 25-city schedule. And it'll start that day on July 16th, and it will run through Labor Day on September 6th. So, when Labor Day comes, it will run through Labor Day. Who knows what other cities WWE might go to, because there are some cities that have restrictions still. So they will have to figure out, the social distancing, the mask wearing, or for people who have been vaccinated. So, but that was the news that was released today. And tickets for SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and Monday Night Raw for those three shows will go on sale this Wednesday at 11 a.m. So that was the little news that I had to get out there to you guys. So if you living in Texas and want to decide to go to SmackDown or Money in the Bank or Monday Night Raw, there you go. You get your tickets this Wednesday, May 26th at 11 o'clock on Ticketmaster. So, but really glad that live fans are coming back in attendance. The Thunderdome, it was a nice concept, but as time went on, the Thunderdome has just become very stale. WWE pipes in these crowd noises that sound all fake. So I'm really glad that WWE is going back on tour. Live fans are coming back in attendance. And adios to the Thunderdome when that time comes. So, but that's good news there. I mean, we need fans in attendance to, make all these noise so WWE could know what the fans want. Do they want to push this guy? Do they not want to push this guy? How bad are the fans going to boo Monday Night Raw? Whatever WWE throws at them. Those are all going to come into play for WWE. WWE, when they were in the Thunderdome, they just basically did whatever they wanted. They were telling fans who went into the Thunderdome, who signed up for the Thunderdome, they told them, WWE told them, which superstar to cheer for, which superstar to boo them. Now, that's out of their hands come July, when the fans come back in attendance. So, but yeah, that's good news for live fans coming back in attendance. So just had to get out that little news. So let's move on with the review. So SmackDown opened up tonight with Michael Cole. And Michael Cole ended up introducing the champions who are on SmackDown. So you had Dominik and Rey Mysterio as the tag team champions, Bianca Belair as the SmackDown Women's Champion. We had Apollo Crews out there along with Commander Aziz. Apollo Crews, of course, the Intercontinental Champion. And the Women's Tag Team Champions, Natalya and Tamina. And they were all standing side by side on the stage. And Sonya Deville was in the ring. Sonya Deville ended up welcoming us to a extra special SmackDown. Sonya Deville ended up talking about the news that broke today on WWE going back on the road where they belong, back to the fans. Sonya Deville ended up saying that Adam Pearce is on the ground scouting locations for the tour because Adam Pearce is now put in place to book all these cities that WWE wants to go to. So he's in charge of that now. So, he has his on-screen role on TV. Adam Pearce, he has his on-screen role on TV, and he's also booking cities for WWE to go to. So we saw, the media coverage that they showed of, the announcement of live fans being back in attendance. And, when WWE ends up announcing that, they're going to promote it so many times, like 20, 30 times, 40 times, until it actually happens. So they just beat it down to the ground. I'm like, as months go on, we're like, okay, we get it. You don't need to keep hyping it up. We know fans are going to be back in attendance. So Sonya Deville ended up hyping up the Parade of Champions. She ended up introducing each champion, and Apollo Crews ended up getting on the mic. And Apollo Crews was not happy about him having to defend the Intercontinental Championship in a fatal four-way later on in the night. So Sonya Deville ended up introducing Bianca Belair, who was the last among the champions who were on the stage. And then she introduced Roman Reigns. So we had Roman's old Shield music play. And at first I'm like, wait a minute. Why are we getting Roman's old Shield theme? And then, lo and behold, Paul Heyman ended up coming out. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that the Parade of Champions is nice, but it's not a Parade of Champions. It's a parade of title holders. So Paul Heyman ended up pointing to all the champions, and he ends up calling them a title holder. And says, Reigns is not a title holder. He's a champion. Not just a champion. The champion. The preeminent champions of all of WWE and all sports entertainment. Paul Heyman ended up saying that when fans buy tickets to these upcoming events, they will do it with confidence that WWE is represented by a preeminent champion, like our tribal chief. He wants to say that Reigns will not be involved in the parade of title holders, but there will be a parade of champion later tonight at Reigns' leisure. So Paul Heyman ended up thanking Sonya Deville, and he ended up heading to the back. I mean, Roman didn't need to be out there anyway. So Sonya Deville ended up saying that's the first surprise of the evening, but probably not the last. So Bayley ended up coming into the ring. She ended up interrupting. Bayley was mad that she wasn't recognized for her title reign through the Thunderdome era. And I'm like, yeah, we should recognize Bayley. She ended up carrying the company through this pandemic. And yet, she's not recognized. So, Bayley ended up taking a shot at Dominik for him riding his father's coattails. And then she went and knocked on Natalya and Tamina. And she ended up saying, "What's up?" to Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz. Which Apollo was like, "Hey." So she then turned her attention to Bianca Belair. She ended up saying that Bianca cheated at WrestleMania Backlash. She ended up calling Bianca a criminal for stealing the Women's Championship. So Bayley ended up wanting Sonya Deville to strip Bianca Belair of the title. So Bianca then came down to the ramp. She ended up coming into the ring. Bianca and Bayley had some words. Bayley ended up saying that she wants her rematch. So Bayley went to get out of the ring. Bianca ended up attacking Bayley from behind. And then we had Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax end up attacking. So we had a 3-on-1 beatdown. Bayley, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler. And then Natalya and Tamina end up coming in to make the save. And that was that. But to me, this whole opening was just very lazy, in my opinion. Just like, oh yeah, we got nothing to open up the show, so let's have all the champions on the show come out there. And we'll have a parade of champions. And that we'll have Sonya Deville come out and announce the big news that WWE is bringing live fans back in attendance in July. That's all it was. Just very lazy on WWE Creative right here in this opening. So then we had a 6-woman tag. Natalya, Tamina, and Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Bayley. Match itself wasn't that bad of a match. It wasn't boring, in my opinion. The match started off with Nia Jax ended up splashing Tamina in the corner. She ended up dropping an elbow on Tamina. She went for the cover. And Tamina ended up kicking out at 2. So Shayna Baszler ended up coming in, started working over Tamina in the corner. So Michael Cole in commentary, he ended up pointing out that Reginald is not here tonight because he was being treated after the exploded ring post that we saw on Monday Night Raw this week. So Shayna Baszler then ended up dropping Tamina for another 2 count. So Bayley ended up coming in. Tamina ended up fighting Bayley off. Bayley then rammed Tamina into the corner, started working over Tamina. Tamina then nailed a suplex to Bayley, tagged in Natalya. Natalya delivered a snap suplex to Shayna Baszler and then to Bayley. So Bayley ended up countering and she ended up dropping Natalya. Shayna Baszler started coming in and she was stretching Natalya's limbs Nia Jax came in, ended up slamming down Tamina for a 2 count. Bianca then tagged in, and Bianca drop kicked Shayna Baszler. Bianca ended up taking Shayna Baszler into the corner, started doing some thrusts on Shayna Baszler. Baszler ended up applying the Karafuda clutch, but Bianca Belair ended up getting out of it. So at the end of the match, we had Shayna Baszler end up taking advantage of the match. Her and Natalya were in the ring, and Shayna Baszler ended up grabbing Natalya from behind, dropped her into the Karafuda clutch, and there you go. Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Bayley ended up winning the match. So overall, it was an okay 6-woman tag. Wasn't boring in my opinion. And then we had Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage with Big E. And Big E ended up telling Kayla Braxton that this is what he asked for. A chance to show that he is the best among the very best. Big E wanted to say that he will stand in the ring with dogs, and this will sharpen his iron. He ended up saying that when he leaves the Thunderdome, he will leave no doubt tonight that he is our rightful Intercontinental Champion. And you've got to feel that. So, that was that. You know, hype for the Fatal 4-Way later on, which was the main event for the Intercontinental Championship. So, then we had a vignette from Aleister Black. Aleister Black ended up reading the Tales from Dark Father book, and he is on chapter 4. And the chapter was called Beautiful Pain. Aleister ended up saying that Father's blessings are painfully etched on his body. His pain serves a purpose. He ended up saying that there is no lying with pain. It is honest. It is truth. And he was like, where would we be without this truth? Without this functional armor of agony? So Aleister ended up saying, let's hear from the bleak. Desert of misery, we hide our deepest, darkest sins. Sins that you embody. Aleister went on to say that Father always said, there isn't an art to being evil. This full of cruel thoughts and evil dreams. He kept saying, you all live proudly in your cesspool of sins and denial because it's all you are. It has become your identity to be lonesome and blind. So Aleister ended up saying, you are sick and dying animals, and it is time for me to separate the weak from the strong, as Father taught me. It is time to cool the herd. So that was that. And Aleister Black, when he was reading here, we saw he was sitting there. He was surrounded by candles that were around him. But cool to see Aleister Black on TV, of course. So then we had Baron Corbin. Corbin ended up coming out. Michael Cole ended up showing us how Corbin ended up defeating Nakamura last week. And Nakamura ended up stealing Corbin's crown after the match. And it also cut away to Nakamura's Instagram, the post that he did wearing Corbin's crown, where there was one post where he was with his cat, and he was just driving around the city with the crown. So Corbin ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying that he was going to come out and not speak, and let his actions do the talking. He ended up saying, but now he can't help himself after seeing that video of Nakamura stealing his crown. He ended up saying that that was the most disrespectful thing he's ever seen. He ended up saying that Nakamura calls himself the king of strong style, but he is no king. So Corbin ended up saying a real king wears watches that cost $40,000. He drives a Ferrari and owns mean dogs of war. He wanted to say that a real king respects the crown. And he's going to punish Nakamura and grind his face into the canvas with his boot, and then take back his crown and send it off to have it clean and polished, and put the crown back where it belongs, right on the top of the head of one of the true kings of WWE. Yeah, a true king of WWE, a true king of boringness is Corbin. So then we had Rick Boogs, Eric Bugenhagen from NXT. He ended up making his debut on SmackDown tonight. I guess, he's now part of the SmackDown roster. And he was playing an electric guitar. And I've seen Rick Boogs in NXT one time. Very awesome gimmick that he has. And he is decent in the ring. He ended up introducing himself to Corbin. And he ended up saying that he came to rock with the real king of SmackDown, Shinsuke Nakamura. So Eric Bugenhagen, or Rick Boogs, started playing along to Nakamura's theme music on the guitar as Nakamura ended up making his way out. It was an awesome rendition there with Boogs playing Nakamura's theme music. So Nakamura came out, of course, wearing Corbin's crown. And that was that. But what a moment that was, with Boogs out there introducing himself and introducing Nakamura, playing Nakamura's theme on the guitar. That is awesome. I guess Boogs is going to be Nakamura's manager now. But I like the pairing between them. Just from watching that. So then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, we had Corbin versus Nakamura. Yes, yet again. So Nakamura ended up unloading on Corbin in the corner. Of course, Boogs was at ringside, and he was hyping Nakamura up. Corbin ended up leveling Nakamura with a big counter. Corbin kept control of the match. He started working on Nakamura. Nakamura fought back, delivered some kicks and punches to Corbin. Corbin then ended up catching him with a powerbomb. Went for the cover. Nakamura kicked out at 2. So Corbin ended up pulling Nakamura down by his arm. He ended up putting a boot to Nakamura's face. Corbin then took Nakamura to the corner, started delivering some shots. Corbin kept Nakamura down in the corner. The referee was warning Corbin. So at the end of the match, we had Boogs started playing Nakamura's theme at ringside. So Corbin was distracted. Nakamura ended up blocking the end of days, and he ended up rolling Corbin up with a small package. And there you go. Nakamura ended up winning the match. So that was that. I mean, nothing different that we saw in this match. We saw it last week, although Corbin ended up defeating Nakamura last week. But like I said, I like the pairing between Boogs and Nakamura here. And with Nakamura, wearing that crown, and I'm like to myself, last week, I said it last week, is WWE tempting to bring back the King of the Ring tournament? I hope they do that. I hope WWE brings back the King of the Ring tournament, because we need the King name off of Corbin. He's been called that for 2 years. I think it's time for somebody else to be king for whoever wins the King of the Ring tournament, if WWE decides to bring it back. So, but they're teasing us there. And then we saw Jimmy Uso and he ended up entering Sonya Deville's locker room. And Jimmy Uso ended up saying that the Usos are ready to get back together and move forward as the best tag team of the century. He ended up saying that him and Jay are ready to do it big. So Sonya Deville ended up asking if Jimmy Uso checked with his brother, Jay. And he ended up saying that he wouldn't be here if he didn't know Jay has his back. Jimmy then went on to say that they want the smoke and that they want the Street Profits. So Sonya Deville ended up making the match for next week. So it's going to be the Usos versus the Street Profits. And then we had Roman Reigns end up coming out, along with Paul Heyman and Jey Uso. So Roman ended up stopping on stage, raised the Universal Championship. Of course, Pyro ends up going off. Reigns got into the ring, raised the Universal Championship again. More Pyro went off. Same thing every week. So SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from commercial, Kevin Owens was backstage. Kevin Owens ended up cutting a promo on the Fatal 4-Way main event for the Intercontinental Championship. And he ended up going on about how he plans on living up to the prize fighter nickname. He ended up saying that when it's all said and done, he plans on being a 3-time Intercontinental Champion. So a little promo from Kevin Owens there. So then we went back to the ring. Roman was on the mic. Roman ended up saying that he sees himself as a humble man and teaches his sons about humility. Reigns ended up going on to say that he doesn't like to brag on live TV. So he's going to take this chance to allow his special counsel to celebrate him. So Paul Heyman then took the mic. Paul Heyman ended up saying that this is a unique surprise and that he has a moment here to honor the tribal chief. He ended up praising Reigns for being undefeated and conquering some of the opponents since he returned to the company, including Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. So he ended up touting the stacked pin on Edge and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, and how Reigns sent Daniel Bryan into a retirement. So Paul Heyman ended up going on. He ended up praising and saying Reigns' wish is his command. And then Paul Heyman ended up asking, what else can he do for his tribal chief? So Reigns ended up ordering Paul Heyman to bring out Jimmy Uso. So Paul Heyman was yelling at the timekeeper, and Paul Heyman was like, hit Jimmy Uso's music. Hit it. So Jimmy Uso didn't come out. We got Cesaro. Cesaro ended up coming out, came out to the stage wearing a suit, and he had a sling on his arm. Reigns ended up saying to cut this bum's music, to cut Cesaro's music. So Cesaro ended up saying to Reigns that he was in the back, and all he heard was this annoying yapping in his ear. Reigns ended up asking Cesaro what he's going to do. And he was like, oh, you only have one arm. Am I going to break the other arm? So Cesaro ended up saying that's just a flesh wound, and that he'd fight Roman with no arms. So Cesaro then proposed a match to Roman. So Cesaro was like, oh, how about you and me again at Hell in a Cell? So Reigns ended up asking if he really wants to do this again, if Cesaro wants to do it again. So then Seth Rollins ended up attacking Cesaro. He ended up sending Cesaro into the barricade and then into the ring steps. So Rollins was just unloading on Cesaro. And I gotta say, what is up with the clothes that Seth Rollins has been wearing recently? I mean, who was dressing Seth Rollins? what is up with the clothes that he wears every single week? Oh, this week he was wearing skulls with different colors on it. So we had officials end up running down, and they ordered Seth Rollins to go to the back. So Rollins ended up going up the ramp. Referees were tending to Cesaro at ringside. So Rollins ended up running back down the ramp, started attacking Cesaro again. Rollins ended up grabbing the arm that Cesaro had his sling in. He ended up slamming Cesaro down to the floor. Rollins then delivered a big stomp to Cesaro at the bottom of the ramp. So Cesaro was clutching his arm. So we had other officials back Rollins away through the timekeeper's area. So Rollins ended up jumping over the barricade, runs back over to the bottom of the ramp, and he sees Cesaro. He delivers another stomp to Cesaro on the steel. So Cesaro was face down on the steel. So Rollins had a crazed look in his eyes, like his eyes were bulging. So we had medics end up bringing a stretcher down to the ramp for Cesaro. And then SmackDown went to commercial. So it looks like Cesaro is not done yet with Seth Rollins. So then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Seth Rollins backstage with Mega Morant. Rollins ended up telling Morant that he doesn't know what happened out there because he was blacked out. So we saw Cesaro being stretched out by the medics. Rollins ended up grabbing him, started yelling at Cesaro, blaming him for everything. And so the medics were pushing Cesaro ahead. Rollins ended up repeatedly asking him, when is he going to learn? When is he going to learn? And Seth Rollins was just yelling that out. So that was that. And then we had Dominik Mysterio versus Robert Roode. Same shit, in my opinion. Roode and Dolph end up coming out. Well, Ray and Dominik came out first, and then Dolph and Robert Roode. Roode ended up saying that Dominik shouldn't let the title win go to his head because his dad did all the work and he just reaped the benefits like he has his whole life. Roode ended up saying that tonight he will prove once and for all that Dominik does not belong here. So we had the match end up starting. Roode ended up powering Dominik into the corner with thrusts. So Roode ended up nailing the suplex to Dominik. He then hit another suplex in the middle of the ring to Dominik. Dominik ended up countering another suplex and rolled Roode up, but Roode ended up kicking out at 2. So Roode ended up launching Dominik into the corner, started charging in with a big shoulder. Roode ended up taking Dominik up to the top. Roode climbed up, but Dominik started fighting back, which Dominik ended up sending Roode down to the mat. So Dominik ended up nailing the crossbody from the top. Roode ended up kicking out at 2. And at the end of the match, we had Dominik end up hitting the 619 to Roode. He went to the top, and in honor of the late great Eddie Guerrero, Dominik ended up hitting the frog splash onto Roode. He went for the cover, and there you go. Dominik ended up winning the match. But same old shit, in my opinion. So then we saw Jey Uso. Jey Uso was walking backstage. Jimmy Uso ended up approaching to tell Jey Uso about the match next week against the Street Profits. So Jey wasn't happy with Jimmy because of Jimmy making the tag match without telling him first. So Jimmy ended up saying that he's looking out for his brother. after Roman said he doesn't need him. So Jimmy ended up pointing out to how capable Jay can be on his own, including his win in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, or the Andre the Giant Jobber Battle Royal. So Jay ended up saying that he still needs to tell Reigns about the match. So that was that. And then Roman Reigns was backstage with Paul Heyman. Jey Uso ended up walking in. Jay ended up telling Roman about the match that him and Jay are in next week against the Street Profits. He ended up saying that he had nothing to do with it. Reigns ended up asking who we is. And he ends up going on about how Jay is being selfish. Reigns ended up saying that this is we, and everything we do represent the family. So Reigns ended up hugging Jey Uso, ended up saying something in his ear. Reigns then pulled away. He had an angry look on his face, and that was that. So Roman, not too happy about that, about Jay being in this match with Jimmy taking on the Street Profits. So then we went to the Street Profits backstage, and they were mocking the Usos. Montez Ford was doing an impression of Jimmy. So Angelo Dawkins ended up saying that it won't be pretty what they do to the Usos next week. So they ended up saying that we want the smoke. And that was that. And then we had Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was backstage with Kayla Braxton. Sami ended up cutting Kayla Braxton off, and he accused Kayla Braxton of filling his head with bad thoughts right before he goes out for his match. Sami ended up calling Kayla Braxton a corporate hack and a propagandist. And he ended up saying that he knows what Kayla Braxton is up to. He ended up going on about the alleged conspiracy against him. And he says that his documentary is coming out soon, which I heard months back. Sami's documentary, which we saw the documentary crew, out there filming Sami Zayn all those months back, is actually going to be for the WWE Network. So I guess it's going to be a documentary on the network. It's going to be on Peacock. So we'll know when that documentary is going to be on there. So Sami ended up saying that no matter what anyone says, he will win back his Intercontinental Championship. So he ended up saying that persecution of Sami Zayn will end tonight. So Sami then made his way out for the match, which this match was the main event. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens versus Big E versus Apollo Crews. Fatal 4-way for the Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn made his way out first, and then Kevin Owens. So then SmackDown went to commercial. So then when SmackDown came back, they ended up announcing that a rematch with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler challenging Natalya and Tamina on Monday Night Raw this Monday. Great! This is like what? The 1,000th time that we're seeing this match? Rematch. God, how many fucking times? Man, Monday Night Raw fucking sucks. Monday Night Raw is like a fucking broken record or a rerun every single week with these rematches. Good job, Vince and Bruce. How many times have we seen Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Tamina, and Natalya? Oh, how fucking original. There you go. Something to look forward to. Not. 1,000th time that we're seeing this match. This women's division fucking sucks. So then we went back to the ring, and out came Big E. And then out came Apollo Crews, the Intercontinental Champion, along with Commander Aziz. And this was a good main event here. This was a great main event. This actually felt like a pay-per-view match. And the match started with Big E end up going at it with Apollo Crews. Kevin Owens ended up attacking Sami Zayn. Owens and Sami Zayn end up brawling out to the floor. Big E and Apollo Crews end up fighting into the corner. Apollo Crews ended up beating Big E down in the middle of the ring. Crews ran the ropes. Big E ended up dropping him with an elbow to the face. Owens ended up coming back in, hit the atomic drop to Big E and also an enziguri. Sami Zayn then dropped Kevin Owens from behind, started beating him down. Sami Zayn ended up keeping Kevin Owens down with knees, and he was delivering more strikes to Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn was choking Kevin Owens with the middle rope. Big E ended up pulling Sami Zayn out to the floor, and he started beating Sami up at ringside. He ended up placing Sami Zayn on the apron, started delivering some forearms to the chest, and Apollo Crews ended up running to Big E's hand, his right hand at ringside. So Big E ended up placing Apollo Crews next to Sami Zayn on their backs, and he was unloading on both Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews with forearms. Big E then ended up running the apron and delivered a splash to both Apollo Crews and Sami Zayn. So Kevin Owens then ran the ropes. He ended up leaping out to the floor, which took Big E down. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, Big E was shown unloading on Apollo Crews in the ring. Crews ended up delivering a drop kick to Big E, which Big E ended up rolling out to the floor to regroup. Apollo Crews then ended up sending Big E into the ring steps. And Kevin Owens ended up kicking Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews ended up blocking the shot into the ring steps and ended up slamming Kevin Owens' face into the steps. Apollo Crews then nailed a good-looking moonsault to Big E off the edge of the apron. And at the end of the match, we had Big E in the ring. And we had the lights suddenly go low. And fog was shown filling the ramp up. And lo and behold, Aleister Black ended up appearing. So Aleister Black was walking down the ramp. He takes his robe off. He ended up entering the ring. Apollo Crews ended up grabbing Big E's leg, which allowed Aleister Black to hit the Black Mass to Big E, which dropped him. Apollo Crews ended up taking advantage, and he ended up pinning Big E. And there you go. Apollo Crews ended up winning the match, retaining the Intercontinental Championship. So post-match, Aleister Black ended up looking off from the stage. Crews was celebrating, and pretty much that was how SmackDown went off the air tonight. But overall, this was a good main event. It was a very enjoyable match. It felt like a pay-per-view match, but just on SmackDown. And happy that Aleister Black made his in-ring return. Well, after over a year. So it looks like Big E is going to turn his attention to Aleister Black. And this could possibly set up Aleister Black versus Big E at Hell in a Cell. So you can tell that is going to happen. But anyway, SmackDown was a good show tonight. Very enjoyable. And anyways, that's it for the review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later.